Danielle Sutherland, please.
Perfect. So my name is Danielle Sutherland, and as the chair said, I'm the manager of curriculum development at Skylark Children, Youth, and Families. I'd just like to really thank the Committee on Social Affairs, Science, and Technology, and specifically all you folks for the opportunity to inform the committee's work on Bill C-45. So at Skylark, we collaborate with children, youth, and families with complex mental health and/or developmental needs to enhance their well-being, resilience, and capabilities. My role is to work with our youth harm reduction team, which is a team of 6 peer youth workers, and I also facilitate our drug education programs, including Sessions, our 30-hour curriculum for youth who live in a world where drug use is common. I've facilitated sessions with over 300 youth since 2014, and most of what I will discuss today comes from the youth that I have run that program with, and also through our youth harm reduction team. So as we look ahead to the potential legalization of cannabis in Canada, and as we consider how this new landscape will impact youth, there are 3 core messages that we want to highlight today. 1, the approach to youth possession of cannabis must be focused on diversion and education and not on penalties and punishments. 2, efforts to educate youth about cannabis must be co-designed and co-led with youth and must be honest. These efforts should not be focused on on abstinence. It should be focused on evidence or based in fear. Tax revenues, the 3rd point, from cannabis sales should be invested in treatment, support, education, and research related to youth mental health and substance use. However, before moving forward, I want to highlight an important point. All the points I am suggesting today have come from the youth I work with every day. They are impacted by the current system of criminalization of substances negatively, in particular of cannabis, and in addition, they have expressed concerns about how the current approach to legalization will further marginalize and impact young people. Bill C-45 would decriminalize youth possession of up to 5 grams of cannabis. However, key questions remain about how young people addressing various amounts of cannabis will be treated under the Youth Criminal Justice Act. And as we know, the consequences of having a criminal record include impacts on access to employment, housing, social stigmatization, and economic status. Further, while C-45 allows for underage possession under 5 grams, provinces have the ability to set a lower amount for youth possession. In Ontario, for example, where we're from, possession of any amount of cannabis by an individual under 19 is prohibited and is grounds for a fine for as much as $200. In lieu of a fine, the court may choose instead to refer a young person convicted of one of these offenses to an approved education or prevention program. But shouldn't education and prevention be the first response rather than merely discretionary? Currently, racialized groups are overrepresented in the criminal justice system, and a disproportionate number of the arrests for cannabis possession under the current system are among members of racialized and vulnerable communities. In each of these cases, we need to think carefully about what our goals are. If our goals are to protect young people and reduce harms associated with drug use and criminalization, we need to pursue the options that are most likely to succeed in meeting these goals. And we believe that options that will allow us to succeed are based in education, not in penalties and punishment. So youth are very clear about what works and what doesn't when it comes to education and diversion efforts with respect to substance use, including the use of cannabis. In the words of one of the participants who attended sessions, everyone else is trying to scare children into not doing drugs. I've been doing weed for 3 years. Hear people tell us what the actual harms are. This program doesn't try to scare you. I learn more. Efforts in which adults focus on abstinence and use fear of the potential negative consequences to deter these behaviors come across as dishonest. Youth are exposed to people, friends and adults, who have used cannabis with no ill effects and in fact may have received benefits. Doctors prescribe medical marijuana. To only emphasize the harm often leads youth to focus only on the benefits and discredit those who state harms. When asked about what the difference was between current school-based drug education and balanced drug education, like our sessions approach, one youth participant stated that the school focused on the negatives, ignoring that drugs do have positives for some people and the reality that teenagers do drugs. But at sessions, they don't say drugs are bad. They give us facts about drugs, but at the end of the day, it's our decision. They're here to educate us, so we are prepared if we do it. They're more in touch with reality. Education efforts in which youth and their peers with the support of adult allies can have honest conversations about cannabis are more likely to help young people understand why people use cannabis and what the risks are, which ultimately better prepares them for making informed decisions. After completing sessions, youth indicated that they would use their knowledge or seek information to help them plan and stay safe while using drugs. One of the benefits of potential legalization of cannabis is that it creates a new revenue stream for governments, and this provides an important opportunity to invest in programs and research that are deeply connected to substance use. For example, the implementation and facilitation of the sorts of education and prevention projects I've mentioned come with a cost, but a very worthwhile cost, for which we need funding. Community-based mental health and addiction support has a long history of being underfunded across Canada. Lack of resourcing in this sector has the consequence of making it hard for young people to access the support they need, often waiting long periods of time as their issues intensify and become more challenging to manage. Cannabis is used to self-medicated, untreated mental health challenges, increasing the complexity of treatment. There is also a significant need to better understand the effects of cannabis on the still developing brains of young people, particularly now with the prospect of legalization. Toronto Public Health stated that to date, most of the research findings are inconsistent or even contradictory, and causal relationships have not always been established. It is important to make the most of this opportunity and use the new revenue stream for much-needed investments in these areas. A significant proportion of our youth population currently uses cannabis, and should cannabis be legalized, we are likely to see more youth comfortable with revealing that they use cannabis because of the destigmatization through legalization. With that in mind, I've tried to highlight 3 core messages over the last several minutes. 1, the approach to youth possession of cannabis must be focused on diversion and education. 2, efforts to educate youth about cannabis must be co-designed and co-led with youth and must be drug neutral and balanced. 3, tax revenues from cannabis sales should be invested in treatment, education, and research. As the committee considers the potential legalization of cannabis, we think that it is essential that you examine these issues with the goal of determining how to protect and promote the well-being of young people in the short and long term and act strategically to do so. I again want to thank the committee for their time and the opportunity to contribute to this process on behalf of the youth I work with. I look forward to the chance to answer any questions you have.
Well, thank you.